Good morning, guys. Hi, guys. Welcome to my Compound Life. This is a channel where we build assets, we build habits, and of course, we build freedom. And that should really be financial freedom, as well as time freedom for you and I, and anyone else that watches this video. So, this is a video about Bitcoin update. Well, our Bitcoin daily video for the January the 2nd, 2026. If you haven't heard from me or watched my 1st of Jan video, I would like to say Happy New Year to you, to your family, and everyone else, and hope that this year, it will be a profitable and prosperous new year of 2026 for all of us, especially the fact that when Bitcoin failed to perform for 2025, and I do have high anticipation that this year it might be different. So let's start with looking at the price of Bitcoin right now. It's around 10:19 in the morning from the time of recording. Bitcoin price is at around 89,700, and it does seem it wants to go higher. Okay, so it wants to go higher, but whether there will be manipulation that will eventually drag it down again, we shall see. But having said that, the 50 days moving average is now at around the region of $90,000. So I do anticipate a lot more profit taking around that, right? So if we can break above 90,000 and hold it for maybe a day or so and not immediately drop down, you guys have seen the price action anyway. At any point of time when Bitcoin gets to about 90,000 or near-ish 90,000, it continuously dump because traders, investors are definitely taking profits at the 50 days moving average. So bear that in mind. So in the past 24 hours, Bitcoin has gone up to around about 2.3%. It starts from around 87,000 and hit a near high of 89,750, and it's still going up. Certainly the low is around 87,500. Market still feels calm, but this morning it does feel like it wants to pump. So we will see, especially I think in the new section that I'll be covering, there will be some key data that comes out today in the US time. So we will see how it perform later on in the afternoon in the UK time. But it doesn't seem that there is much trading yesterday, so the whole price movement were pretty limited. And of course, no big bad event that drag Bitcoin price. So that's good. In terms of fear and greed index, we are now at 28, right? Which mean fear level, right? Yesterday we were at 19. That was extreme fear. So last year for 2025, index go from greed about 70 plus early of the year to extreme fear 20-ish low in December, right? So it really does showcase how big of a swing Bitcoin has gone through. But one interesting point, when index low, like now, in the past, it really showcased, it's always good time to buy because price often goes up after, right? And of course, fear mean, oversell, greed when overbuy. So let me know in the comment section whether you're buying or selling. But it does seem today there are more buyers. Maybe investor came back. They had a good first of Jan holiday, and all of a sudden they decided I needed more Bitcoin. So today there are no ETF data, so I wouldn't be covering any of that because yesterday it was a holiday for all. In terms of Bitcoin price action, short term it does still seem it's neutral because unless Bitcoin somehow secure back the 50 days moving average at around 90,000, um, it simply just looks like it can be another market makers or exchanges manipulation. So be careful, don't be too bullish until we are able to secure that 50 days moving average. Okay, so let's quickly look at some news that can move Bitcoin price. So the first one that I'll be covering is the S&P Global US Manufacturing PMI data release. Whew, that's a long one. So this specific data will be the final for December 2025. It will be released at around 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time. That's US East Coast time. Okay, so much later in our UK afternoon's time. So watch that. And will this affect the Bitcoin price? Yes, it can definitely affect the Bitcoin price, but not always big move. Okay, unless the the data came out that's exceptionally bad, terrible. Yes, I do anticipate a massive dip on Bitcoin, but for now, I think it will have some effect, but not huge. But certainly, positive data does reflect that maybe Bitcoin will continue to run for a longer period of time. So, what is PMI? PMI it's a survey data where PMI they survey asks different factory manager if business is good, whether they're receiving new orders, jobs, productions, and so forth. And so, specifically for this data, above 50, it means economy is growing, and below 50, it means economy is shrinking. And how does it affect Bitcoin price? If PMI is higher than expected, it essentially indicates that there are a lot of strong factory movement or strong factory performance. It showcased that the US economy is good, and maybe Fed will not cut interest rate that fast, right? Because all of us are anticipating a Fed rate cut sometime in January, right? So certainly with strong data that comes out from PMI, it will be bad for Bitcoin in the short term, right? Because sellers, investors, will likely sell off risk assets like Bitcoin and crypto. So I kind of see that as short-term bearish. If PMI is lower than expected, it essentially indicates weak factory, not a lot of production going on. Show that economy might be slowing down, and Fed maybe cut rate in January, or maybe they'll have to, or they're being forced to cut rate even more throughout the year 2026. So that would definitely be good for Bitcoin because definitely having cheap money in the US essentially means Bitcoin price will move higher because there'll be more investors wanting to invest and buy into Bitcoin. So short term, there will be bullishness if that happens. So market FYI already have seen the flash numbers for PMI. So it will not be a huge surprise. So there wouldn't be any surprise move, put it this way, and unless something big, something drastic came off. So bear that in mind. So yeah, I think that's something to look forward to. We'll see how that goes. But maybe Bitcoin can move 1 to 3% the same day, based on historical, when PMI data release, and we'll see how that goes. Also, we are also waiting for the market first open for 2026 in the US Wall Street. So we'll see how Wall Street reacts to recent US GDP data. Obviously, recent data shows strong performance, especially indicating that US economy is performing. Quick reminder: US Q3 GDP grows 4.3%. The expectation was around 3.3%. So GDP is the number to show how much US economy grew. High value means business is good and people spend more, and strong economy can really make Fed not to cut interest rate much in January, right? So I think so far it does seem it might be bearish because strong GDP data for Q3 only, right? It's giving indication that there might not be a cut in January, right? So if you look through polymarket data now, it's really showcasing that the prediction is not even a 25 basis point cut, and my guess is even with today's S&P Global Manufacturing PMI data releases, it will result definitely reduce the prediction for a 25 basis point rate cut for January. So not great, but I'm still long-term bullish. I think let all of this data that comes out first. We'll see how that goes. But eventually, we are my take of the whole situation is we are going into a bear market for 2026. I can't be sure that we are definitely going into a bear market, but of course, my read of the market, my take of the chart does indicate that we are going through a more bearish situation versus what everyone else are saying that Bitcoin will be going higher, right? So from that sense, my beliefs still remain, and my take will be if more of this data that comes out, it will cause Bitcoin to be even more bearish, and then the quicker we get onto the bear market, the quicker that we can rebound, right? Historically, it takes about 12 months for us to go through the bear market. And so far, I think if we consider October around 8th, the all-time high of Bitcoin at 126,000, if we consider that as the Bitcoin high, right? So it wasn't a blow off top, it was just a peak for Bitcoin. And then now we are in January, we are already 2 months or 3 months down, the bear market, right? So historically, Bitcoin bear market only takes about 12 months. So imagine that we're already 2 or 3 months done the bear market. Essentially, that means, yes, maybe we'll go lower, right? And there will actually be more for us to look forward to towards end of year. Like I have said many, many times before, my timing will probably be re-enter accumulation phase towards maybe Q4 this year, 2026, sometime in November. So that would be, historically, that would be a good timing if we still follows through the 4-year cycle, right? So I'm suggesting let's not disregard the 4-year cycle completely, because it's still very much so algorithmic based Bitcoin. But at the same time, I do know that this time round it's very much so dominated by institutions buying of Bitcoin, like the ETFs, like the treasuries, or even the government stacking Bitcoin, right? The nations. So it could play out very differently. But at the same time, do not disregard for your cycle, because that's when the halving event comes. And usually after halving event, there will be some sort of supply shock in the system that's the opportunity for us to earn our bucks from Bitcoin. Okay, let's move on to the next section, other interesting news section. Not sure whether you guys heard about this, but Iran started to sell weapons for Bitcoin. Iran announces sell weapons, missiles to foreign government for Bitcoin and crypto. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing, but I think these are more interesting ways Bitcoin gets used by different nations. So a bit more background: Iran under sanction, so that's why they have to utilize Bitcoin to avoid bank rules, right? So essentially, they use Bitcoin to sell and to earn Bitcoin and start stacking Bitcoin. I think that's pretty smart. And I'm sure a lot of Russians are doing the same thing too, right? Bitcoin might be one of the best way for them to, to accumulate their wealth, to store their wealth. So yes, something for consideration too. It's not just for transaction of money. However, it's the store of wealth that Bitcoin can bring us all. Okay, one interesting one that I want to cover is for the UK. Obviously, starting on 1st of January in the UK, 2026, there will be some new tax reporting rules. I've covered this in my prior video, specifically for the CARF. So do check that out. That should give you more breakdown in terms of what exactly that means. So what exactly is this new rule? Just a quick recap to highlight. From January the 1st, 2026, crypto exchanges, wallets, and platforms called crypto asset service providers, right? So they must collect more details from users like names, address, date of birth, tax ID, like national insurance numbers and tax residencies, and report all users' transactions to HMRC, that's the UK tax office. So that includes the buy, the sell, the swaps, the transfers, or even selling into a stable coins, right? Or movements of the stable coins. Are they moving it into another wallet, etc., right? So this is part of global system called CARF, which stands for Crypto Asset Reporting Framework from OECD. So over 40 countries starts the same time, including the UK. Platforms will collect data from 2026. First full report will be sent to HMRC by the 31st of May 2027. If platform they decided not to report the right data, they will be fined up to £300 per user, which is quite hefty, knowing that platforms does have, at least the bigger platform does have millions of customers, and user must give correct info or penalty too, right? So a bit of background, HMRC, why are they doing this in the UK, right? Because HMRC, that's the UK government tax office, wants to stop people to hide crypto gains and not pay tax, like capital gain tax when we sell at a profits, right? So they think, well, at least HMRC believe that many do not report this correctly. And of course, their intention is to bring in over 300 to 315 million pounds worth of extra tax revenue in the coming few years, right? So overall, I think it makes the whole UK buying crypto pretty hard. So that's why a lot of people, they make the gains, they decide to leave the UK and to cash out somewhere else. So there has been a lot of millionaires, billionaires leaving the UK, FYI. And I think for the rest of us, we'll just have to pay our taxes and suck it in and move on, right? That's how we roll. Okay, so overall for the past 24 hours, not too much movement for Bitcoin because it's only the first day of January 2026, but it does seem when Asia open, it does seem Bitcoin might want to go higher. Even UK market open around 9:30 just now. It does seem Bitcoin wants to push forward higher. Hence, hence the jump to about 89,750. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes when the US market opens. So drop a like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.